Hey everybody, welcome back to World History. Today we're doing section 3 on the Protestant Reformation. So go ahead and get your notes out and let's get started. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is the Reformation, a period of time of uncertainty in terms of education, reform, and questioning a lot of people's values. And it's really going to be a lot directed towards the church specifically. So, some various causes. Renaissance ideas played a major part in the creation and beginning of the Reformation. Also, a lot of secular issues, namely politics and war. The printing press helped people become more educated, and the corruptness of the clergy. They were very wealthy, they collected fees, even though they're supposed to live a life of poverty. They were also collecting something known as indulgences, or essentially a get out of hell free card. And people were buying entry into heaven. As you can see from these examples of possible coupons that you could get to get as a joke to get yourself out of hell. Now, people began to call for changes in the church. People like John Wycliffe, who questioned the authority of the Pope and was versus the church's wealth. He's also the first person to translate the Bible into English. And I'm going to move my little bubble over here. That way you guys can still see the rest of the content on the slide. People like Erasmus attacked corruption. Remember, we talked about him last time. And when people like Jan Hus, of Bohemia, who criticized the wealth of the church, he was burned at the stake as a heretic. Now, this would all change when Martin Luther, a German monk and professor of theology, posted the 95 Theses in 1517 on the church doors in Wittenberg, Germany. This was mainly against the local Cardinal Tetzel and presented his arguments against the church. He also rejected Roman authority, and this begins the Reformation, or a movement for reform within the church. Now, these 95 Theses included things like no more taking of indulgences, priests should stick to their vows, and a lot of limitations as to how far the church had gotten in the last 200, 300 years that they shouldn't have had. Now, the response to Luther was kind of we're like, ha 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 ha, we're not going to do it. Pope Leo X excommunicated Luther and in 1521 and basically called for his head. Now, Charles V called the Diet, or a meeting of German princes in the city of Worms, and he refused to recant what Luther had said. He was declared an outlaw. They then established, my apologies. They brought Luther before the Diet. Luther refused to recant and was declared an outlaw in all the German provinces. They then established a new church, the Protestants, because they were protesting papal authority, because it's in the name. And these are essentially Christians belonging to a non-Catholic church. Now, I want you all to take a minute and think about, why did Martin Luther refuse to recant? Take a minute to think about that, and we'll talk about that in a sec. Okay. Hopefully you had some good points that you thought of. Now, a little bit on Protestant teachings. They looked for justification by faith alone, saying the Bible is the only source of truth. People can read and understand the Bible themselves, and salvation comes only through faith in Christ, not paying your priest an indulgence to absolve yourself of sin. All of these things were directed at getting people back to, you could call it, the true roots of Christianity, where it was just your faith. So the results, the ideas would spread throughout Germany and Scandinavia, and national loyalty would be brought into play because at this point in history, really, wherever you were, your religion was decided by whatever noble or royal was in charge of your region. So that means if your local prince was Catholic, you were Catholic. If your local your local prince was Protestant, you were Protestant. And a lot of people wanted to get rid of church and Roman rule and do their own thing and not be under the thumb of the church. So the peasants actually began to revolt, supporting Luther's ideas. However, Luther was like, oh yeah, no, I don't care about the peasants, squash the rebellion. A lot of people died. and a lot of people stopped supporting him at that point. Now, in 1555, we have the Peace of Augsburg. Essentially, a prince could decide which religion to follow in the land. And for the most part, the southern part of Europe, so mainly think like Italy, that general region, remained Catholic. In the north, a new branch of Christianity was formed, the Lutherans. Yes, that's right, folks. Martin Luther has his own branch of Christianity named after him now. Now, this isn't the only part of the Reformation that we can focus on. We also have to talk about it in Switzerland. Ulrich Zwingli was very pro-Bible and but against the rituals of the church, things like baptism, certain rites that were being performed. He was against those. We also have people like John Calvin and his branch of the Reformation, Calvinism. Now, he was actually inspired by Martin Luther. The 95 Thesis came out when Calvin was just 8 years old, and he primarily focused the Reformation in Germany, France, the Netherlands, England, and Scotland, primarily northwestern Europe specifically. He'd write a book, The Institutes of the Christian Religion. He'd actually be completely persecuted and chased out of Europe entirely across the countryside. People literally chased him with torches and pitchforks. He would escape to America and lead a rebellion there and actually help grow the Reformations movement here in the New World. We also talk about some saints and sinners being changed around. A lot of people were going up against that. Also, the idea of predestination, that God determined long ago who would be saved. A lot of the Reformation was bucking against this idea. And also the setting up of a theocracy in Geneva, a government run by church leaders. Theocracy is one of our major government types that's out there. Here in the United States, we have a republic, but a theocracy, again, is a government run by church leaders that emphasized hard work, discipline, thrift, honesty, and morality. So, the impact of this gives us the Presbyterians, the Puritan movement, and the Reformed Church itself. Really, the Reformation, if we're looking at this on a grand scheme of things, is a beginning of Christianity becoming its modern day counterpart. All right, that is going to be it for notes for today. Your assignment is going to be a Sheg reading packet. There are PDF copies of that on Google Classroom. I will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.